Welcome to our first video on vintage guitar picks. Right off the bat, we're dealing with the French here, and the French are featured first because they are the first great innovators when it comes to guitar picks. It just so happens the oldest verifiable pick to date, going back to around 1883, is in fact French, and that's the Cristofaro right here. Give you a close-up of the Cristofaro right now. Excuse the camera shake. And there you go, Latin Castle, Cristofaro, Paris. We'll get back to that one in a moment. Take a look at a few other details. There's nothing we could reference size to here, so we're going to use this 351, very common shape today. Everyone's familiar with the 351. And for those future videos in which contain a 351, we won't even need that reference. So this is only there for reference purposes. You notice there's some unique picks here. Almost, actually, in fact, all are mandolin or banjo picks. And they're amazing as far as I'm concerned. Having a collection of thousands of vintage picks, they're very distinct. Cristofaro, going back to the patriarch of all picks. Cristofaro was a European mandolinist coming from Naples, Italy. His full name was Ferdinand di Cristofaro. He toured Europe in the 1870s to great reception. Phenomenal mandolinist for his day, always well received. In 1879, he settled in Paris, France, set up shop as a teacher, released his first book in 1883, which actually illustrates, excuse the camera shake, illustrates a pick just like this. This is a Neapolitan mandolin shape, and but in this case it's so distinct. In 1875 the French started manufacturing celluloid, and here we have 1883, the first pick made. No doubt to go along with the book, if he was a teacher of mandolin, he would have needed to offer his students a pick. It could be earlier than that. I don't see it coming later though. Cristofaro was dead by 1890, so undoubtedly was not produced after that. Enough can't be said about it. First pick with a artist's name on it, so it is the first artist pick known in existence. First pick with the name of a city on it. Latin Castle, the word we saw at the top earlier, translates to indestructible one. So truly, this is the pick of picks, at least in my opinion. I'm sure others have their own personal favorites, but as a vintage collector, the older, the better, and the more distinct. It's so subtle in its character at the same time. There's nothing flashy or distinct or striking as we have with these bosons. So let's go to the bosons now. This black boson here arrived with the Cristofaro, as well as this unusual mother of pearl pick here. All these are celluloid picks except this mother of pearl down here. So we have this, and this arriving together. Evidence would indicate, though, that the boson, with its vertically fluted grip, did not come after, or came well after the Cristofaro, probably after 1907 or so, between 1907 and 1930. We see similar designs by the Germans who copied many of the French picks in their 1930s catalogs. So we could safely say that these are between 1907 and 1930. Boson here, the small word there is déposé, meaning closest translation, registered. And you'll see with the boson what it shares in common with the Atlas pick, which we'll move on to. The Atlas pick down here, these are all again the Neapolitan shape, and these could be used for banjo or mandolin. These are traditionally banjo picks, wide and stout here, narrow and long, Neapolitan mandolin picks. Now, I have them lined up in a certain way for a reason. If you look at this celluloid and this celluloid, very similar in appearance. Same as here and here, here and here. We have the boson here, the Atlas here. Very similar in appearance. So we could safely conclude that this entire group right here was produced around the same time, Most celluloids only having a run of about 10 years. That is, they seem to be sold over a 10-year time. But celluloid is made in huge blocks, so a large block of celluloid could produce probably hundreds of thousands or millions of picks. We're going to move on right now to this pick on the far right. I choose to feature it because we find it in a 1904 catalog from France, and we're going to see that in a moment. Nothing like it ever seen in the U.S. Moving down to here, we have the Ranieri and Burger shape right here, long. We call it a surfboard here in the U.S. Us modern collectors. Again, probably from the 1904, 1907 French catalog that we'll see in a moment. This Atlas pick, interesting. If you'll take a look at the how it's done here, it has these crosses on either end, and those crosses are really references on where to place the die when it was done. So amazingly, the French were way ahead of so many people. They have printing during a time where no U.S. manufacturer except for one had printing on a pick. Moving down to this pick here, this is really interesting. You see this red smear here, and it looks as though that, and smells like it's lipstick. So this appears to be part of a piece of jewelry that was used for a guitar pick called mediators in French, and the player obviously alternated between fingerstyle and using their abalone pick. But when they were playing fingerstyle, they put this abalone pick, she presumably, in her mouth, and it was right there for when she needed it. Again, sorry for the camera shake. Many details could be followed up regarding these, but we're going to move along in this series. We have many wonderful picks to feature here, and I'll just show you those catalogs I mentioned earlier. The first a few that we'll be seeing during this video series, just to show you how far the French were. Here's a 1901 Jerome Thubeville Lamy catalog, and already it has numbering up to a 128 down here, indicating they had at least 128 picks in their catalog, but 146 right here. So at least 146 around 1901 U.S. catalogs, typically featuring a half a dozen or less during this period of time. Unique shapes here. If you take a look at that, how similar is it to this pick in its vertical fluting? Different shape there, longer mandolin shape, but enough can't be said about the French. I really respect them. Of course, they lost their title by 1930. They became a bit more obscure, but we'll be seeing a lot from the French in the future. Thanks for joining me. I'm Joe from Playmore Guitar Picks. You could find more contact and details down below of this video. See you later. Take care.